Welcome to Larry's Library. We are continuing our journey through the 1970s, where I count down my top 10 favorite comics of each year, one at a time. Last month I did 1970, and now it's time for a new Top 10 Tuesday, and this time I'm doing 1971. But before I get to the comic books, I like to go over my favorite music and movies of the year in question. But for those that don't want to wait through that, you want to jump straight to the comic books, I will put a link down in the description to get you right there if you want to bypass the intro. But for the rest of you, let's take a look at my favorite music and movies of 1971. Now, I was 3 years old in 71, so of course I didn't get into any of this until much later. But let's take a look. 71, like most of the 70s, was jam-packed full of great movies and music. So I'm not going to put these in order, and I'm not going to name them all because we'd be here all day. But let me just name a few. So some of my favorite albums of 1971 would include the Rolling Stones' Sticky Fingers, Led Zeppelin's Led Zeppelin 4, which is actually untitled, but it was their fourth album. Many consider it their best. I don't know if I go that far, but it's really good. Jethro Tull's Aqualung was 1971. Probably my favorite band of all time, The Doors, put out L.A. Woman in 71. Canned Heat teamed up with blues legend John Lee Hooker, and they put out Hooker and Heat. That is a great album. If you haven't heard that, check it out. But quite possibly my favorite album of all time came out in 1971, and that was T-Rex Electric Warrior. That thing is awesome from start to finish. Movies, man, there was so many of those. See, James Bond, Diamonds Are Forever was 71. First of the Dirty Harry movies came out in 71 with the movie of the same title, Dirty Harry. I'm not a huge Dirty Harry fan, but I do like him, and that was the first one. Hammer Films' Countess Dracula, starring Ingrid Pitt, that was 71. The Andromeda Strain was 1971. Woody Allen's Bananas came out in 71. Never forget that one. Escape from the Planet of the Apes, another great one. In 1971, Mike Nichols directed an all-star cast. It had included Jack Nicholson, Candice Bergen, Art Garfunkel, and Margaret, of course. And that movie was called Carnal Knowledge, and it was good. Steven Spielberg's directorial debut was in 71 with a made-for-TV movie that was called Duel, and that was from a Richard Matheson script. And boy, that is a tense thriller. If you haven't seen Duel, look that one up. It's pretty good stuff. Speaking of directorial debuts, George Lucas's directorial debut was also in 1971, and that was THX 1138. He had made a student film that was of the same subject. It might have been the same title. And then he went on to make an actual movie of it that was produced by Francis Ford Coppola, if I remember right. And I love THX 1138. I will never forget that movie. Great, great movie. Really love that. George Lucas went on to sprinkle the word THX 1138 throughout a lot of his movies. Probably most notably, it was the license plate of one of the main characters' hot rods in American Graffiti, which he did like some 3 years later. But one of my all-time favorite movies ever, it's a rough one, but it's a great one. And that is Stanley Kubrick's adaptation of Anthony Burgess's novel, A Clockwork Orange. That is a powerhouse of a movie, but not for the faint of heart. It is a rough one, but love that movie. And that was 1971. But the main focus of this video is my favorite comic books of the year 1971. So let's get started. At number 10, I have Amazing Spider-Man issue 101, written by Roy Thomas, art by Gil Kane, with inks by Frank Giacola. This is Morbius's first appearance. I haven't even seen that movie. I understand it's a dog, but I still love that character. So this one is collected in Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 3, and I believe that's where I've read it. I don't think I ever had a single or a reprint of this before the omnibus. But yeah, it's good stuff. Gil Kane cover here too. At number 9, I have DC's House of Secrets issue 92. Now, a lot of you probably know that issue 92 is the first appearance of Swamp Thing. Now, this Swamp Thing is not the Swamp Thing that we know and love from Bernie Wrightson and Alan Moore later fame. This is, the character's name was, let's see, I have it in my notes because I don't have it memorized, Alex Olson was the character's name as he debuted in House of Secrets 92. Excellent Wrightson cover here too. So this was written by Jerry Conway. Of course, the art is by Bernie Wrightson, one of the greatest horror artists of all time, for sure. And that's why it's number 9 on my top favorite comics of 1971. Now, this one is collected many, many places. I own it in 2 different forms so far. I say so far because I'm probably going to add the new Dark Genesis double omnis that just got announced. So I don't know. But right now I have it in The Absolute Swamp Thing by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. And I also have it in the Swamp Thing, the Bronze Age Omnibus. But I think it's even collected in the House of Secrets Omni if you want to go there. And probably in a bunch of trades also, a bunch of trade paperbacks, I imagine. At number 8, I have Savage Tales, issue number 1. Now, this was a black and white Curtis magazine. And the writers on this, and I don't even know if this is all of them, but these are the main ones, Stan Lee, Roy Thomas, Jerry Conway, and Denny O'Neil. BC, because this is an anthology. Like most of the Marvel black and white magazines, they feature multiple stories in one volume. The art here is stellar. You've got John Buscema, you have Barry Windsor Smith, you have John Romita Sr., Gray Morrow, and Gene Colan are all in this issue. So this was a precursor to the Savage Sword of Conan magazine that came later. So this is collected in the first Savage Sword of Conan, the original Marvel Years omnibus. Maybe other places too, but that's where I read it initially. Now, at number 7, I have a sort of a sample issue of Submariner, because I could have picked many, many issues from Submariner that year. It was a great year for Namor fans, but I'm choosing here issue number 36. I used to have a single of this one years ago in my old collection. This one is another one written by Roy Thomas, pencils by Sal Buscema, but the inks are by Bernie Wrightson. So there he is again. Really cool combination there. I read that, like I said, I read this originally in a single issue format. Hopefully this is going to get collected in either volume 2 or volume 3, depending on how they map it, of the hopefully upcoming but still not yet announced Namor omnibus. We have volume 1 now, but this is not in there. This will be in 2 or 3. Hopefully we get those. So fingers crossed. At number 6, I have DC's Mr. Miracle issue number 1. I used to own the original single of this. Sadly, I sold it. I shouldn't have, but I did. What are you going to do? You make mistakes. But this one, of course, is written by Jack Kirby. Pencils by Jack Kirby. Unfortunately, it is inked by Vince Colletta. You know, someone in one of my other videos asked me, well, what's your problem with Vince Colletta? I like his inks. Well, you know, I don't hate the man's inks, but I hate what he did to a lot of Kirby's pencils. And he was a little bit lazy, and he was well known to have erased some of Jack Kirby's very detailed backgrounds because he didn't want to ink them. Is that insane? You know, a lot of us love comic books so much, we forget that it was a business. And at one time, it was kind of a big business in America. And so some of these artists look at it as a very, very much a job, you know, and they're putting a paycheck. They're getting a paycheck is what they're trying to do. And I'm not faulting them on that. But you just don't erase the king's work. And that's what Vince Colletta did many, many times. I mean, he does, his technique is fine. It looks good. I just wish he wouldn't have erased Kirby's stuff. You know? But this one, what I own it in now is it is collected in the Absolute Fourth World Volume 1, among other places. It's probably collected across some trade paperbacks, too, if you want to get it that way. But so this is a good one, though. This is a really good issue. And that's why it's number 6 in the countdown. Now, right in the center, right in the middle of my top 10 favorite comic books of 1971, at number 5, I have Marvel Feature number 1. So this is Marvel Feature presents The Defenders. And this is written by Roy Thomas. Again, he's all over these 1970s Marvel lists, for sure. The pencils here are by Ross Andrew, inks by Bill Everett. Love Bill Everett. And he is a heck of an inker, too. This is collected in Defenders Omnibus Volume 1, and this is the cover to the edition I have as well. Love the Defender. One of my favorite teams of all time, for sure. And this is right at the beginning of it. Now, at number 4, I have Amazing Spider-Man issue 98. Written by Stan Lee, pencils once again by Gil Kane, inks here by Frank Giacomo and Tony Mortellaro, I believe his pronunciation. And from what I've read in the notes, various sites, I looked this up on, Giacomo did all of the main inks here, and then Mortellaro did the background inks. So, group effort. This is collected in Amazing Spider-Man Omnibus Volume 3. Love that Omni. Love the Silver Age and early Bronze Age Spider-Man stuff. Really love it. And this is early on in the Green Goblin stuff, and it's great. I'm not even going to go into the story here in case you haven't read it yet. It's really good. Nice plot. In fact, this is one of the drug issues, I believe, where the Comics Code refused to put their stamp of approval on it because there was drug use mentioned in the book, in the plot. So you see you have this clean cover here without that silly stamp. At number 3, I have Incredible Hulk issue 142. Now, I originally read this one in one of those strange little, I think Pocketbook might have been the company, not sure. But they were paperback novel-sized reprints. And they would even move the panels around to sort of format it to the page, if I remember right. And they were in color. Some of them were black and white, some of them were color. But I read this originally in that little format. And then later, this got collected in Incredible Hulk Omnibus Volume 3. And that's how I have it now. Love this cover. Love this story. It's called They Shoot Hulks, Don't They? And it's a strange little quirky story, very offbeat. If I remember right, the Hulk is at this strange dinner party. Yeah, it's wild. There's all kind of pop culture references of the time, 1971. So it is wild. But it has the Valkyrie in it. Love that character. This is written by Roy Thomas again. He's all over the place. And this is penciled by Herb Trimpe. And I love Herb Trimpe's Hulk. Really do. Inks here by John Severin. Love Severin's inks. Looks really good on Herb Trimpe's pencils. And yeah, I really, really love this story and love this issue. And that's why it is number 3 in my top 10. At number 2, I have, again, sort of a sampling. I could have chosen from really any of the Conan stuff that came out that year. There was plenty to choose from. All Barry Windsor Smith art. I chose here issue number 8 of Conan the Barbarian, written by Roy Thomas from a Robert E. Howard fragment story that was never quite finished. And Roy Thomas fleshed it out and adapted it for the comics. And he did a lot of that, and he did it masterfully. Pencils, of course, by Barry Windsor Smith. Back then he was going by just Barry Smith. Inks by Tom Sutton and Tom Palmer. 2 Toms. The cover here is by Barry Smith and Sal Buscema. And I think I read that, I might have this note right. I think John Romita Sr. touched up the face on the female on this cover for some reason. He did a lot of that back then. He would touch up a lot of Kirby faces that were not quite right. And Barry Smith back then was just starting to get out of his Kirby aping phase. You can tell here this doesn't look much like Kirby at all. Some of the earlier Conans did. And he just evolved and evolved. And he got better and better with age. He was just a tremendous artist. He still is. Just awesome. So this is collected in Conan the Barbarian, the original Marvel years, Omnibus Volume 1. Love this cover. Love this story. And that's why it's number 2 on my top 10 favorite comic books of 1971. But what is number 1? Some of you might know. Put your guesses in now before I reveal it. Of course, it's Tomb of Dracula, issue number 1. Written by Jerry Conway. From a plot by Roy Thomas. There he is again. Art inside is by Gene Colan. Pencils and inks. It is beautiful. The cover here is by Neil Adams. Another stellar piece of art. But yeah, that lush Gene Colan art throughout the inside of this. And a pretty damn good story too. Starts this very seminal horror series, in my opinion. This series, I think it ran for like, I want to say 72 issues, something like that. And at one time, I had every single issue of the original series. And as I transitioned to mostly hardcover collected editions, I did sell those. I even had the issue number 1 autographed by Neil Adams, and I sold it too. I know, sacrilege, right? But, you know, you got to make some concessions when you have a collection this large, you know. And you have a limited amount of space and a limited amount of funds. So, but anyway, I do dearly love this. Like I said, I have it in the omnibus now. I recommend you get it in that format. It works well there. But yeah, this is easily my favorite comic book of 1971 that I have read. Now, as I've said before and kind of reiterated here, I'm not saying these are the best comic books, period, of 1971. These are my favorites that I've read from that year. So what are your favorites of 1971? Do any of these make your list? Feel free to list yours down in the comments. I'd love to hear what your favorites were from such an awesome year for American comic books, 1971. Another one in the can. So next month, we'll do 1972. So please come back for that. And please subscribe if you haven't done that already. It really helps the channel out. Make some comments. Give me a thumbs up if you love this. And I will catch you next time.